Video games are a bit strange compared to other creative mediums. Their interactive nature means you engage with them in some uniquely weird and granular ways. Menus I find to be most interesting. They're often needed to change your game experience, build a character, manage your inventory, make decisions, direct units, and much more. Compared to mapping every action to a single button, a menu opens up near limitless options to interact with the game's world. Despite the mechanical benefits of menus, I feel like it's rare we praise them for that aspect. We focus more on how the graphic design teams seamlessly integrate them into their game's world or tone. Do you have a favorite menu that brings joy to your life, aesthetically or otherwise? I'd love to hear about it, but for my favorite menu, it has no flash, no pop, and oddly, seems like it was added as a bit of an afterthought. If you don't know much about Phantasy Star Online, it's an iconic title in the history of early online console gaming. However, looking at it today, it can be hard to figure out what made it tick. It's not like a PC MMO, which created vast worlds for players to interact in. In Phantasy Star Online, only 4 players can participate during dungeon runs, and when it does connect players at a larger scale, it's only about a dozen or so people in a chat-dedicated lobby. But despite these limitations, it still lets players connect worldwide, chat, and ultimately build friendships for months or years to come. It's a game that, in general, I think achieves a lot with a little. The combat system is built almost entirely around this 3-hit attack combo, or choosing the right spell to exploit an enemy's elemental weakness. Evasive capabilities aren't really a thing here either, so stats determine parry and evasion rates unless you can walk out of the enemy's attack. It's all seemingly designed in a very dial-up, slow internet-friendly way. This simplicity makes it oddly refreshing and relaxing as you rhythmically tap away at foes while trying to fit a chat message in here or there. The ability to join and leave most games at almost any point also makes it feel like a very minimal commitment. I don't go to bars or watch football, but I'd imagine PSO is like being at a bar, chatting, and watching a football game versus something like a full-scale MMO where you're on the actual football team, highly coordinating with your teammates. Phantasy Star Online's menus are stylized, but they're not particularly flashy or exciting. Instead, we'll be talking about a very particular menu that I think accentuates the game's core underlying gameplay strength. But I'm gonna need quite a bit of time here real quick to talk to you about what those strengths are first, so please bear with me. Character building plays a huge role in this game. The 3 main class types focus on melee, ranged, and magic, with race and gender-based subclasses also helping specialize certain stats. So even if you are primarily a melee class, your race and gender can make you more inclined towards using magic or ranged weaponry. You can even further customize your character with various other in-game equipment and consumables, the most iconic being robotic pets known as mags that drastically impact your character stats. Part of what makes this game exciting is that there are few limitations on what your character can equip, cast, or use. You can adapt your character to the gameplay elements and playstyles that you prefer. A melee build mage class may not be efficient, but Phantasy Star Online gives you that freedom to build it, and in most cases, as a somewhat viable option. Enemy formations and weaknesses significantly affect how and when you utilize your character's capabilities. Most of Phantasy Star Online's dungeons are divided into small rooms. When entering one, a different collection of enemies will spawn in various formations. As the player fights, new enemies will appear or existing ones will shuffle around the field. This constantly changing enemy variety and formations introduces new risks that could end up with you surrounded, as well as introduce new damage-dealing opportunities. Throughout the game, you'll build up a large number of tools, including weapon types and spells with different properties. Some are single strikes that push enemies back, others rapidly hit and stun foes, and then there are those that hit multiple targets with wide sweeping hits or long-range chain attacks. Elemental weaknesses play an additional role in spell casting, but there's little overlap in each element's target traits, further complicating the equation of what to use and when. And as you find new weapons or new spells, that equation of what to utilize to manage each encounter evolves again. Is this what kept people, including 12-year-old me, playing Phantasy Star Online for hundreds of hours? Probably not. The online community likely played a much bigger role. But I do think this underlying system deserves some credit, at least as an excellent excuse to keep meeting new people and interacting with others online. But I do think there's still value in this more relaxed and dynamic combat system being a strong motivator to go back and revisit the game today. Whether you want to grind all the way to the max level or not might be another thing. However, I recently did do a podcast with two people who still play Phantasy Star Online. So if you want to hear more about what the modern day appeal of the game is, I'd highly recommend going and giving that a listen. However, to my surprise, this is where the menu comes in. I promise we're getting there. The first version of Phantasy Star Online, released in 2000, is actually pretty bad at accommodating this dynamic playfield. In most versions of the game, including the original, character actions are assigned to the 3 face buttons on the controller. This interface is known as the action palette. These buttons can be assigned to nearly every action the player can take, including using an item, casting a spell, or performing a melee attack. A second palette can also be accessed by holding the R trigger, doubling the number of actions available to you. However, this still means that even if every slot you have has a spell on it, you only have access to a third of the game's spells at a time. And if you're a weapons-based class, your attack type is still limited to whatever weapon you have currently equipped. So changing between these different weapons with different strengths mid-combat is really challenging. To access additional spells or change weapons in version 1, you need to open your entire menu, navigate to the appropriate submenu, and scroll between 16 to 30 options to select the resource, weapon, or spell you want to use. It works, but it's clunky and not worth the effort in a lot of situations unless the combat scenario has changed drastically. This is where Phantasy Star Online version 2 comes into play. This is an actual physical game sold on a disc, since there weren't reliable ways to patch or add significant new content to existing console games. On its surface, it's best known for its increased level cap, new difficulty level, and reskinned and remixed dungeons, enemies, and bosses. However, my favorite part of version 2 is a little something known as the shortcut window. It's a beautiful thing. Holding the R trigger and pressing the Y button opens a small 3-page window in the corner of the screen. It can be navigated using the D-pad to switch to any weapon, cast any spell, or use any inventory item you have access to. While not as easily accessible as something as the action palette, this makes using your secondary resources relatively trivial. So whether it's a wide-swinging weapon, a quick healing item, or a spell for a one-off enemy, every option is only a few button presses away, making combat much snappier and dynamic. With quick enough fingers, between strikes you can change your attack type, letting you immediately follow up with a more effective weapon. However, even in version 2 specifically, the shortcut window can be a little cumbersome, as the Dreamcast D-pad is on the same side as the controller as your movement, but on the GameCube and Xbox, the second analog stick frees your left hand, making the shortcut window even more convenient. Though, interestingly enough, they renamed it Shortcut Display on Xbox for some reason. These long-term online RPGs often involve repetitive content that you do with others. As you play through an area for the 10th, 50th, 100th, or 1000th time, I think you naturally start making little optimizations that best use your resources and save you time. At least for me, these tiny corner cuts can be really satisfying, and the shortcut window plays a huge role in making these possible. Most later online Phantasy Star titles replace this menu as something known as a weapon palette, which is a handful of preset slots that weapons and spells can be equipped to, but it's a lot more limited in what it can access. I usually compare the difference between the weapon palette and shortcut window to iOS and Mac versus Windows and Android. The weapon palette system is more formal and user-friendly, probably resulting in better balanced gameplay, but inevitably it limits your ability to utilize the full breadth of your character versus the shortcut window having raw access to every tool you have. That's not to say these future games should have used the shortcut window. They're much more complicated with vastly more resources, attributes, and factors to consider. Putting those in one big menu probably would get really overwhelming really fast. The original Phantasy Star Online's limited resources and spells is what makes the shortcut window work. there are just enough options to be flexible, but not so overbearing that you'll get lost. It's basic, plain looking, and was shoved in between versions, but I don't think any other menu I've used does the amount of heavy lifting this little file explorer looking window does. Thank you so much to Demodori and Megamint for donating on Ko-fi to help make this video happen. If you want to support me there, it helps me create these videos faster, hopefully. And then also be sure to go check out that podcast about Phantasy Star Online that I did on my secondary YouTube channel.